Hey guys, Gon here, back here with another video, and today I want to talk about the Hunter x Hunter anime. To be more specific, I want to talk about its imminent return. As we know, we've got a video game coming, we've got chapters coming out every week, so it's only logical that sooner rather than later, the anime will come back. But unlike many people, I have a different opinion on this matter. Lots of people saying, oh come on, we can't wait for the anime to be back. We need Hisoka, Chrollo, we need all this action to get animated. But I think that the Hunter x Hunter 2011 anime should not continue. I don't think there should be an extension. I think they should just leave it there. But to be more specific, I think they should make a remake. Now, why a remake and not a reboot? A reboot, of course, is when you restart something and do it from scratch, whilst a remake is where you change it to make it better. So what's my vision for how this remake would look like? I've got a very clear example in mind. My example is the One Piece by Wit Studio. Now Ichiro Oda, the mangaka of One Piece, told Wit Studio they could take creative liberties and they could ameliorate the scenes in the early part of One Piece to make them more engaging and to be more of the quality of later on in One Piece. And I think that this concept's already been tried and tested in both 1999 and 2011 for Hunter x Hunter. Of course, in 1999, there was lots of filler which added to the fact that the characters felt more real and more compelling, whilst in 2011 they added scenes of Gon and Killua's friendship that weren't there in the manga, which made their relationship feel more sturdy, and when it broke off, made it feel more devastating. So it's already been used as a concept, additions to the manga and the anime to try to enhance the story. And I think that they should go full on in that aspect, because Hunter x Hunter is such a vast story which only gets more and more expansive by the arc. So the earlier parts of Hunter x Hunter do lack some details that the others have, and they're also shorter, so there's definitely room to improve in that regard. Now, being said, why shouldn't 2011 continue? Well, I should give you a few reasons first before I continue to advance on the idea I'm building. My thing is three big reasons actually, and then I'll go into the minor details. The biggest reason of all, episode 1. It's my opinion that they completely butchered episode 1 of Hunter x Hunter. Everyone always says, and they're like, man, you just need to get through the first few episodes and then it gets going. And the reason that's the case is that we don't care about Gon or any of the characters in Hunter x Hunter 2011 in the first 12 episodes. And in the manga, almost the entirety of chapter 1 is dedicated to Kites. In the manga, Gon doesn't know his parents at all. He doesn't know anything about them. And Kite's the one that explains things to him. He's the one that tells Gon about what a hunter is, the fact his dad's alive and he's a hunter. And Gon and Kite have this really tight relationship where Kite tells Gon a lot of what shapes his worldview, and in a sense he becomes a bit of a father figure to Gon, and that really is the grounding place of where we start to care about Gon as a character, because the series starts off with an emotional moment. So I think that that's very important. And later on, when of course Kite dies, it has less of an impact in 2011, and we feel almost like Gon's reaction is a bit overstated. Whilst in the manga, it's very reasonable, and I think that even adding more to the Kite dynamic in a remake could make this really turn from a negative that it was in 2011 to a massive positive. So that's the biggest reason, and that's all to do with Gon's characterization. Of course, if we had to say there's one main character in the series, it would be Gon, so I think that's very important. The other part is the censorship. There's a lot of censorship in Hunter x Hunter 2011. Now, inherently, censorship isn't an issue, but the problem here is that the brutality of Hunter x Hunter is few and far between, and when it is done for a reason and for a purpose and to invoke emotions. So the fact that it was missing made lots of scenes not hit as they should have. So changing that aspect, of course, to make the events of the Chimera Ant arc, especially the palace invasion, have that much more oomph to them, to make it so that, okay, Gon and Killua really have been through a lot. Because the greatest praise that Hunter x Hunter 2011 normally gets is how it started off lighthearted and then got really dark. Yet, I thought the nuance behind it wasn't as developed as it could have been. We could have seen more of a gradual change like we did in the manga, and there is still room to improve. And the third reason is missing content and missing characters. Now, I won't spoil in case you haven't read the manga, which I highly recommend. I even made a video on why you should read the Hunter x Hunter manga. But we've got characters which are present in the manga which aren't at all in the anime. And now this is a real shocker because, of course, every character in the series matters, because even if they're not currently present in the arc, we still have them in the back of our minds. So it creates anticipation, hype, and it helps us go through the slower moments of the series, especially when there's exposition, and in particular in the middle of the Chimera Ant arc, where, yes, in the anime it's worse, which is another thing the remake could do better, but in the manga it still slows down a bit. So the other thing as well is, of course, missing story contents. We had this whole chapter on Meteor City and, of course, the new arc in the manga, which wasn't there in the anime. And I feel like having that animated and expanding on it even more can make the effect that had on our impression of the Phantom Troop even greater. One of the most important scenes in the entirety of Hunter x Hunter. Likewise, how I said of Gon meeting Kite for the first time, yet this one's not even included anywhere. It's Gyro's resurrection as a Chimera Ant, and him going through a town where Gon and Killua were training with Knuckle and Shoots, and saying to himself that he was going to get himself back together, go to Meteor City, and rebuild his new empire. And his will was stronger than ever. And then the narrator slipped in this important piece of dialogue saying, at some point, Gon and Gyro shall meet again. Now, not really to spoil what's happening in the manga, we're seeing less of Gon. So in this very moment of Gon, that one phrase from the narrator helps us stay invested in his character arc. And I think small things like that, which in the large scope of things are very large, play a huge dividend on the success of an anime. And Hunter x Hunter 2011, whilst it's received great reviews, one of the greatest adaptations ever, it has its flaws. It's not perfect. It's not even the best anime adaptation. So, in this remake, to circumvent back to what I was saying earlier, I believe there's also another aspect it can benefit from: modern animation. Of course, in the Hunter x Hunter 2011, the animation still holds up, but especially from the Hunter exam and the Zodiac family arc, there are moments where it shows it's aged a bit. And I feel like animation has really taken strides to enhance the storytelling. We see in Demon Slayer and in Jujutsu Kaisen that the animation makes it so that the anime adaptations are better than the mangas they're adapting. So I think that's very important for it to have good animation, and that's where the worry comes in. Of course, I'm going to be talking about the pros to get the remake, but I have to be honest as a reviewer, as someone who's studying the field I'm talking about, that there are cons. The greatest con is it might not capture the lightning in the bottle. Now, what I mean by lightning in the bottle, immediately off the top of my head, episode 116, where Gon's having this breakdown in front of Pitou. Incredible voice acting, beautiful animation, perfect timing. It'll be hard to replicate and even harder to outdo it. And just throughout the whole series, there's always the fear that the remake might be worse than what we already have. So there's a very large amount of pressure that comes onto any remake, and especially one with the just massive scope of this series. And really, the reason why I'm making this video now, today, is that with a remake, it could happen tomorrow. Genuinely. When we look at Hunter x Hunter's 2011 runtime, from 2011 to 2014, ranging from the start of the Hunter exam to the end of the 13th chairman election arc, it took them 3 years to adapt. And this is just on a schedule where it's coming out every single week. So if it was seasonal, it would take much longer, perhaps even 6-7 years. But considering the fact that it goes as quickly as possible, and let's just say it happens every week, which gives, of course, less time for Togashi to make chapters. From now, let's say at the start of 2025, 1st of January 2025, to get to the end of the 13th election arc again, would be get there, of course, in 2028. Now, with the events in the manga right now, and of Togashi finishing 30 chapters by the end of the year, to get to 2024, the end of our content now, it would be 2029 in the anime if it starts in 2 months. So that means that there's a lot of time. Whereas, of course, if the 2011 anime came back, we'd immediately be back in another anime hiatus. And that's why I hope it doesn't come back, because then it makes the likelihood of a reboot less and less likely. The fact is, with a reboot, if it's done well, it can continue into the fact that we could be having Hunter x Hunter until the completion of the manga. So, for all those reasons, and for some additional ones, which in my head just make a lot more sense, the fact that the marketing a reboot would have, and especially, of course, in this case, a remake, would make it so that Hunter x Hunter would grow as a fan base. Because as we know, modern anime and new anime are hot. When something's new, people check it out. And we're seeing a lot of nostalgia baits in the industry right now. The Bleach, of course, coming back was huge. We're seeing, of course, the One Piece remake, and there's talks about a Naruto remake. So having it come back for the entirety of the series makes it so that it will build more and more money, and it will generate more and more interest. Now this is important because, of course, animes, whilst they're running, they're on a budget. And if an anime is not doing well, the budget decreases. Whilst if an anime is doing well, it increases. And that means that if the anime does well, those scenes we'll get later on, of course, in the Succession contest arc, will have greater animation than they ever could have if they just came back right off the bat, because of the amount of money the series will have generated until the 13th chairman election arc. And this means that we could have the exact same animation teams, everything the same staff, the same time to create those episodes, but the difference in quality will be drastic just because of course, the tools they'll have access to, the people they'll be able to get in to do some temporary work, and just the vast amount of resources they'll be able to tap into. Now, we see with anime movies where the budget is huge, that the animation of anime is still primitive in comparison. There is still a lot of evolution that could take place. So I think in this slow strategy of building, whilst of course Togashi is releasing new chapters for there to be more content to adapt, is as close to perfect as perfect gets. So for those reasons, that's why I think remake, not continuation, and remake instead of reboots. Another reason for the remake instead of the reboot is it gives us more content. And with more content, it gives Togashi more time. This is all about Togashi and about making sure that he doesn't feel rushed. Of course, when the 2011 anime came out, he immediately did 30 chapters, and then he went on one of the longest hiatuses ever. So for Hunter x Hunter, it's not only a series, we've got to consider the man of Togashi, his life and his family. And we've got to make sure everything orientates itself in a way that's healthy, in a way that's productive and makes sense financially. So with all that being said, my final take on it is that I think that the anime is coming back sooner than we think, regardless of if it's a remake, a reboot, or continuation. And I hope that the executives make the right decision, because if it comes back too soon, if it's a continuation, it won't be successful in the long run. And of course, if they do a remake, they've got to make sure the additional content is truly well thought of. It can't just be scenes for humor. So, coming on to my final points, the one moment where I think a remake would really enhance the series, the second last episode 147 of Hunter x Hunter 2011. In this episode, Gon and Killua say bye to each other. Of course, if the stakes were higher, if there was no censorship, if there was additional scenes, this conclusion could very well be the most emotional scene in the entire series. And I felt that watching it, and also reading it, but to a lesser extent, it didn't hold the level of dramatic impact I thought it should. Now, if they can nail this scene right, they will already have everyone hooked, so that even when things change, of course, in the arcs in the manga, people will still be there and their attention span will be there through a sense of loyalty, but the attachment to Gon, to Killua, and to the cast is so large that no matter what happens or who's in this story, they will keep watching as every episode comes out. So those are my concluding thoughts. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you're all having a great day. And I just want to say that if you got something you'd want me to cover, if you're a Hunter x Hunter fan and there's certain Hunter x Hunter content you want to see that doesn't exist on YouTube, just leave a comment down below and I'll do it. Of course, I take in all suggestions and I do all videos that people want down below. And yes, if you want to be along with me for the journey, I do Hunter x Hunter videos every single day without exception. So if you want to join the journey, please subscribe. And yes, this was Gon. Peace out.